In this video, I'm going to go through what actually matters to retailers. So I just spent this entire week, today's Friday, from Monday to Thursday, I was in Quebec meeting with the biggest retailers of BioSteel in the province. And it was quite the learning experience because this is so new to me. Canadian Protein is predominantly an e-commerce brand, as you may or may not know, but BioSteel is predominantly a retail brand. And I have never sat in meetings with retailers. I have sat in meetings online, over Zoom and whatever, but never in person to really, I guess, show face in person to retailers. And I never realized how important it was, but it's extremely important. And I underestimated the relationship building aspect of business. What's interesting is I always knew it was extremely important, but I didn't realize until this past week how important that actually is. And what's really interesting is there's a couple things that I noticed. Just so everybody knows, there's Clark. I'm not talking to myself. Number one, I think what was key in this was to, I guess, extend a level of confidence to the retailers that are moving and selling BioSteel so that they feel confident and comfortable that the brand's not going anywhere. Because the commonality between all of them was they have and will continue to invest in the brand and agreeing to bring the brand in and take up floor space or shelf space that otherwise would go to another brand that was committed. As you could imagine, they had to feel me out, get an understanding of where I see the brand evolving. And another thing that was really important to me too is I think they wanted to understand that I had direction for the brand and I had a plan. One of the most important things as well that they wanted to know is that we have a plan. We have a plan to drive awareness and interest and keep the brand relevant. And then after that, they want to know that we have a plan, but they also want to know that the plan is going to work and they could see it, right? They want to understand that we have a plan and that plan will be able to be activated. Okay. I feel like our plan, this is something that I was actually asking a little bit ago, but do you think that we should share the marketing deck with viewers or no? Keep it a little closer to our chest? I think so, eh? Potentially because of our competition.
Yeah, we can talk more about that afterwards.
Yeah, but it might be interesting.
Might be interesting, even if it's like key highlights.
Yeah.
Like not details, it's just more of like
Yeah.
concepts.
Let me know in the comments if you guys would want to actually see our marketing plan or our deck. But they want to know that, and they want to be able to see it, right? They want to be able to understand it. And they also want to know, which this might be the biggest thing, is they want to know how they're going to make money. And that's the biggest thing. At the end of the day, even though nobody talks about it, everybody there that I was sitting in front of is there, including myself, to make money. And, it was, what do the margins look like? And how are you going to support retail programming in our stores in order to push more product? I kind of thought, I'm having a little bit of a change of hearts. Remember how I was like, stores make money on the retail programming and the product is there to like essentially pay the bill? Although I do think that is somewhat the case, I do realize that retailers will charge for programming in order to, how can I explain this? Move more product, I guess. And at the end of the day, if you own a big retail store and the programming in the store was free, you would imagine that everybody would just want to be in the best placement. So what do? You charge for it. And it kind of weeds out who wants to, it's like a natural filtering system of brands, right? So it's actually, I'm starting to understand it a little bit differently, and it makes a lot of sense. Whereas before I was like, oh, these greedy motherfuckers are just like trying to make as much money as possible when, well, obviously so are we, but they're doing it in like I felt an I guess, help me out here.
Unethical, sleazy.
Not unethical, sleazy, maybe not that, but like kind of like a back doorway. You know what I mean? Whereas I actually understand it because as a brand, if they were like, oh, hey, we have an end cap here, it's free, you want it? Obviously, right? But if they charge for it, it'd make a lot of sense that it's a natural filtering of things. So I guess next thing I'd like to talk about is
your pit mobility.
Oh man, I'm stiff. Well, dude, I haven't worked out in like a week. Right? Being away, like it matters. Like not being able to stretch like really good in the machines. Oh man, or even like active stretching with like load. But anyways, something else that I really noticed is I had a great. Okay, let's back up and give you guys a little bit of context. This is out of my wheelhouse. I have never done this type of stuff. I'm not like a schmoozer. I'm not like a sales guy. I'm not that guy, okay? I am here's the honest, authentic truth. What you see is what you get from me. And I really connected with these retailers, I feel. And I wouldn't have thought that I did if it wasn't for Julie's comments from Purity, who's our distributor, who I was with. And she was like, yeah, they really like you. And according to her, it's because I'll read her message. So that I'm not kind of like, I'm not paraphrasing here. So, okay, here we go. So I basically told her, she was like, you know, hope you, whatever. She sent me a message and I was like, perfect, thanks. I was like, was great to be a part of this, like the kind of like Quebec tour or whatever. And she's like, you are great at it. I deal with a lot of brands, as you know, and you got what the industry likes, the cool, real, authentic, no bullshit factor. She's like, we'll have lots of fun. You'll see. I am as driven as you are with BioSteel. I think that maybe because when I walk into these meetings, this is not like what you see is what you get with me, I feel, and maybe they respect that. And what's really interesting too, of what I mentioned to you already, is the fact that these buyers and these retailers, they actually like watch me on social because they've made some comments. Like the one guy that I met with yesterday was like, or not yesterday, the day before, like is a big Porsche fan. Mm-hmm. And, you know, I walk in the room and he made a comment right away that was like, oh, what do you, like, did you bring your Porsche or whatever? And like, it's just so not stuffy. Yeah. And these guys were like great to deal with. The women were great to deal with. They were like super down to earth. You know me, I'm not like a egotistical kind of guy, even though maybe some people might actually think so. I'm not, mm-hmm. But I think that, you know, and the conversations are just so organic and so authentic that I think it immediately breaks down barriers, and they get to see that, like, I'm just like a normal guy. Like, I don't try to like walk in there, big shot man, like, you know, I'm the owner, like you, like, no, that's not who I am.
Who were a lot of the people that you were meeting with? Was it like category buyers? Was it some like executives?
So, yeah. Who? So it was category buyers. I met with one of the it was like category buyers and the owners. Mm-hmm. So obviously the one, I'm not going to name them, but there was this one like large corp that it was like the marketing director, the category buyer, and then also, or the buyer and then the category buyer under the main buyer, I think. So, but they're just like, you know, this is what I think people are misrepresented by. These are high power. They hold the keys to, you know, your brand being successful in their stores. But at the end of the day, they're people. Mm-hmm. And if you can relate to them, find ways to relate to them. And the best way to relate to them is be a normal person, right? Share, you know, or find out just be genuine. Yeah. Be genuine in wanting to know more about them, right? You know, if you got kids, they got kids, there's a lot to talk about there. If they like cars, like, you know, car chat, like talk about cars. Like if they have like working out interests, you like working out, like find out what's relatable. Mm-hmm. And be a normal person. I think that's what a lot of people are you know, a lot of these kind of sales, like these sales programs and things like that, I feel like what they again, I've never taken one. You have to a great extent, right? Mm-hmm. I'm not saying that there's no great tactics in like learning how to sell, but I feel like if you have a great product and you can be relatable to the people and get in front of them, like, that's probably a winning a winning recipe. What would you think? What would you say when you went through these like big sales programs, or like coaching or whatever? Like, what did they go through?
You might like hear about that, but it's so much harder, so much easier said than done.
Yeah.
Right.
What?
Like actually just being like authentic and organic and very natural and down to earth and whatever.
You think it's harder?
Oh, I think it's much harder than what it, like when you just say.
Or what I'm making it out to be.
because I feel like there's a natural sense of just confidence from your experience of doing this for so long. And
okay.
like,
oh, so you think I naturally have it?
Yeah.
Okay, interesting.
Whereas I genuinely think some people would have to like train to have it.
Oh.
Yeah. But this also boils down to like when you talk about like way back in the day and learning how to like talk to girls and like having to overcome like a lot of those sorts of like your nerves and like your apprehensions and your insecurities.
Yeah.
Like, all of the work that you like talk about doing at a really young age, I feel like that then carries forward into business, which we've talked about before.
Yeah. So what's really interesting about that, in not one of those meetings I was nervous. Not one. And remember, even when I won that award for like the business of the year, and I got up on stage, I was the first fucking person to, like, I had no speech ready, but everybody said that my speech was by far the best. Super weird. I was not nervous whatsoever to get up there. And so maybe that's what it is. Like, maybe it's just, so if you could learn how to do that but you think that that's actually something that people's like sales train for? Like, is that what you're getting at?
They'll literally like train to try to get it, and I think it is trainable, right? Because I don't think, for example,
training on how to be relatable, or
and just being
is that part of sales? You think?
Oh, 100%.
Is it actually? Okay,
interesting. Yeah, I think it is. I think that sometimes they also focus on like trying to put on more of a like becoming so relatable that then it's actually fake. You see what I mean?
Oh.
Like, for example, sure, yeah, I'm like, I'll see a cool car and I'm like, that's cool. Do I love cars? No. But if I'm trying to like forcefully talk to you about cars, you're gonna be like, okay, that's just, it feels inauthentic.
I see.
What I mean?
Okay, so you think like
trying to go above and beyond and trying to relate, I feel like could actually become inauthentic.
I see.
I think you think you're whatever is like natural to you and natural to the other person, I feel like that is 100%. But I feel like also approaching it in the way of just trying to not be intimidated and trying to be very, just like understanding they are just a human.
Yeah.
That's not their job. And like, they're just, right? I think that even when I have conversations with, like, I very, very rarely get nervous too. And I think it's just because I look at every single person I'm talking to as they're just a human being.
Yeah.
If it's the president of the university, like, I don't get nervous talking to him. I'm like, this is just a guy. Sure, he holds a very high status role.
Yeah.
But there's things that we can connect on and
for sure,
like things that we can relate on.
Like at the end of the day, that maybe. And here's another thing too, I don't really talk about things, or I'm not really in industries that I don't maybe understand, or topics rarely come up that I will speak on that I don't really know a lot about. So maybe that's also key too. Or even if a topic does come up, like, I am not afraid to tell other people like I know nothing about it. Which also came up. Like, some people, like, sometimes they would ask me a couple questions and I'm like, listen, like, I don't know anything about it. Like, you're a better man than I am for whatever, knowing more about that topic or whatever, right? So and maybe that shows a level of like humility where I'm not trying to, be inauthentic, but that's the common thing that people keep on mentioning to me in these kind of settings, is that I come off like really authentic. And also what's really interesting is that they watch I don't want to say watch, because it sounds like they're like always watching, which is probably not the case, but they have seen my social media and they probably appreciate that it's not a show. Like, I'm actually I'm the same guy. So when I walk into the room, it's not like a different person, which I think a lot of people are different on social media than they are in real life.
100%.
Right? Would you agree?
Yeah.
And I don't like that. I actually don't like that. I want to tell our story and my story online. And I think that's extremely important, because what we've seen with BioSteel, and back me up here, people out there, I'll get your feedback on this. People out there were trying to tell the story of BioSteel and us, probably in the hopes of us not telling it ourselves. Would you agree?
Oh, absolutely.
Like, they were trying to spread rumors. They were trying to, sell even buyers and retailers on fake shit and a fake narrative that we're not going to be able to turn the business around, that we're not doing this, we're not going to be able to do this. But me being able to get out there, I actually think allowed some retailers that wanted to keep the brand, it allowed them to have confidence to be able to keep the product on the shelf. Because if you notice, the majority of the main retailers of the brand did not delist it. And I think that if I went dark and didn't talk about it, that would have been the downfall of like the BioSteel maintaining its retail relationships.
Because I feel like then they would have gotten nervous. I feel like they would have been like, well, I don't know what's happening.
Yeah.
If you're like, hey, here's what's happening. It's a shit show. We're trying our best. There's going to be delays. Maybe we'll make a couple mistakes, but we'll figure it out.
But while also like having the goal of maintaining those retail relationships, like when other people out there were trying to, you know, shit talk BioSteel and shit talk us in an effort to get their product in our spot. If I didn't do that and we didn't do that, who knows where the brand would be.
How did what was the general sentiment of the brand in Quebec? Like, I'm actually very curious. What did they say in terms of historical performance, customer reviews? Like, how do they feel about the brand?
Yeah. So all of the buyers absolutely love the brand. It's not as strong as it once was. But it's still very strong. As you can imagine, you got to think about the endorsements, think about like how strong think about the momentum the brand had just from pumping $400 million in the last 3 years, right? 3.5 years, whatever. Think about how strong that is. That's to maintain that without that level of ad spend and marketing spend is going to be tough. And I don't disagree with that, right? However, what I am shocked with is how little we have since spent and how relevant and how much momentum the brand still does have. Now, will that fall off if we don't do anything? For sure. How much will that fall off with the plans that we have? I'm hoping nothing. I'm hoping that we actually continue to build it back up the right way. And I think we will be able to. But in terms of the buyers, they fucking love the brand. Like, they fucking love it. They love it themselves. And they love it in their stores. They feel like connected to the brand because they feel like they had a firsthand, they first-handedly helped the brand become successful, which I absolutely do not disagree with. You got to think like the majority of these brands or these retailers specifically are like very heavily embedded in the communities that they're in. So from a grassroots perspective, they probably did have a very significant role in building that brand.
It feels kind of hard to explain. So obviously I lived in Montreal for 5 years. Grocery stores feel different in Quebec than in Ontario.
100% they do.
Like even the like chains, they feel more like a locally owned market where you would like know all the people.
Dude, I didn't see one Loblaw store there. Like Zehrs, supermarket. Like I didn't see any of that shit.
No, they
Not
feel
one.
They feel even the chains feel very much like locally owned.
Yeah.
Like I don't know. It's just like they have like much better prices usually. Like it's
yeah, and that's what I mean,
right? Like, so when I say that they had a first-hand relationship with building the brand, or first, like I don't know how you can explain it, but like they were very much responsible for building this brand. They feel emotionally connected to it because of it, and they want to see it like rise from its ashes. So I think telling this story and being vocal about it is absolutely key, like absolutely key. And I'm not going to stop because I think it's such an interesting one. And especially for the fact that retailers, you know, they may or may not watch this. I want to be the one telling the story about it. And I want to air all of it. I want to air the dirty laundry about it. I want to air the successes of it because I don't want somebody framing the narrative of BioSteel instead of us doing it, because it's already happening and I'm not going to let it happen. I'm not going to continue to let it happen without us having a say in it. But the retailers love it. There has been a little bit of a fall off, and the reason being though is because you got to think we just recently got back into that market because we had Purity take over the Quebec market for us, right? So, and because of that, it's been a little bit of there's been a delay in getting product to these specific retailers, but now it's flowing. So it shouldn't be like the last month or so, especially, it's been flowing. So, you know, for the first, like the Quebec market is a little bit different. It operates very franchisee-ish, especially with some of the retailers. For example, the stores that I'm talking about would be more, I'm not going to name them, but more, they're franchise based, and the same store or the same chains everywhere else in Canada are corporately owned. And we ship direct, which we got that established early on. But in Quebec, they like dealing with a distributor. So we had to navigate that a little bit and make sure that our distributor was able to distribute to them, and they had to set everything up and that. So there was a little bit of a delay. So I'm hoping to get the brand reestablished in these stores. But all in all, they absolutely love it. And man, I'm telling you, it's so interesting. I have so much in common with the buyers and with the retailers. Like, I think that's probably another reason why it's like so genuine, right? And authentic. And I think that I think that's the absolute key in these retail relationships is absolutely being authentic and not trying to be someone you're not. That's, I feel, what's huge in this, and why I think we're gonna have success with BioSteel is because we're authentic people. We're real people, and yeah.